Hello everybody and welcome to the GMS Magazine channel. I am Paco Garcia, your host. Many times we can find that people get angry around the table. Knowing how to handle an angry player, and even better, how to prevent players from getting to that point, can mean the difference between having a great gaming night or a completely ruined experience. Today I'm going to give you a few hints and tips as to how to deal with that situation if you ever, hopefully not, have to face it. Welcome to the GMS Academy. Let's game. Sometimes we find that players cannot really handle very well when they lose a game, whether you're playing a role-playing game or a board game. If a task doesn't get to the right place, if a character dies in a role-playing game, or if the player loses when playing a board game, anger can ensue. This video has been inspired by a friend of mine who has a neurodivergent child who finds it very difficult and very hard to lose because finding the feeling of loss really overwhelming. Now, even though I am a qualified psychotherapist, what I'm going to say is not clinical advice and is definitely not to be taken as therapeutic advice at all. So please, caution is advised, and if you see a truly important issue, talk to the person and encourage them to get professional help. Having said that, anger is very often the result of a different emotion, whether it is frustration, whether it is lack of security, or simply that we are not used to dealing with a sense of loss. More often than not, though, it could be frustration. Regardless of the genesis of the anger, one very important aspect to keep in mind is to identify when the person at hand is getting angry and why. This, well, it is easier said than done, admittedly, because each person is different. Where some people may begin to stutter when they feel frustrated, somebody else might clench their fist, somebody else will just huff and puff, they will be fidgety. It could be a number of things. Or it could be something that you won't even notice. Sometimes if you have somebody who's neurodivergent, it may be something that just happens all the time. And for that sort of situation, the best thing to do is to identify what is the feeling that makes that person overwhelmed and try to either help them cope with it or to avoid it altogether. And yes, it's a lot easier said than done, I have to say. So with anger, there is one important aspect, and it's what we call the point of no return. This is when you get so angry that you lose the capability to think really coherently, and then you lose control. That is when flipping tables happen, when people storm off a gaming table, when insults begin to be spread, when I don't want to play anymore, kind of thing. Yes, we see that in children an awful lot, because they get frustrated more easily than adults do, because theoretically we have learned to cope with those emotions a lot more, theoretically. My advice would be, firstly, try to figure out what are the signs that are telling you that that child, that adult is actually getting frustrated, that anger is beginning to arise. And when that happens, when you can identify, well, it is because they don't really know how to exploit the game to the best of their abilities that they want to have, and that's what really triggers them, then you can try and help them. Even if it is a competitive game, try to help them, give them some advice. If you see that giving them advice is actually making things worse because they want to do it by themselves, step aside, stop the game if you must for a little while, and just reassure the person that it doesn't matter. Maybe even doing the same mistakes or similar mistakes and pointing out, look, I've done it exactly the same, and it's okay. Leading by example can make quite a difference. Forewarning the person can also mean an awful lot. Tell them, we're going to try this experiment, we're going to play, so I will win, so you see that losing is not a big deal. Perhaps they will find it a little bit difficult, but knowing that it's going to be a suicide game, so to speak, it may give them the confidence to know that, it doesn't really matter because this is for me to experience what it is like to lose. Let them win. If it comes to that, allow them to win. Yes, cheat so they can win the game. It's okay. It's a game, and having that person having a good time seriously shouldn't really matter that much, unless of course you are in some sort of competition or something like that, or you're trying to teach that person how to lose, which is not at all a bad skill to have. Get them ready for that experience. Explain little by little. Also, avoid games that are going to give them that experience. Say that you are a very experienced chess or Go player or any other game for that matter. Try to avoid giving that person a bad experience by them feeling that they don't have a chance to win. That is very frustrating. That, my friends, is what completely ruined Blood Bowl for me. Because when I was literally learning the rules, that person would never ever allow me to experiment, to try anything at all, because what he found important was to win at all costs, and with everybody and anybody. And I didn't want to play anymore. I didn't want that experience again. So it ruined it. If you're a child, if you have difficulties coping with a sense of loss, if you are neurodivergent or you have somebody like that at the table, that can be even more of an issue. I understand that what I'm talking about may feel ableist in some ways, and I recognize that sometimes the only way to deal with these situations is to acknowledge them as the person who don't have to deal, who is privileged enough to not to have to deal with these situations, and trying to help these people cope the best way they can. I'm sure that a lot of people are going to say maybe those people shouldn't play games. Well, no, there will be exceptions. But no, if there is something that can be done for those people to enjoy games, if there is something that can be done to teach a child not to get upset when losing, we are adults. It is our responsibility. We have the privilege of actually knowing how to lose and not losing our head about it. It is our responsibility. It's a decent thing to do. Trying to play cooperative games where everybody loses or everybody wins might actually be a good idea, because it could also teach them leadership skills. And everybody loses at the same time, so the loss is shared, and that can make quite a difference. And above all, avoid games where one last round can mean the difference between 10 and 30 points difference, because that is a sneaky way of winning. And if people already have difficulties finding how to deal with loss or losing a game, if they think they're about to win and suddenly you overtake them in a means and by means that they didn't expect, that could be severely frustrating. So avoid that sort of games. If you know that the game is going to be like that, of course, an awful lot of worker placement games can be like that, tactical games can be like that. Perhaps choosing more narrative games instead of mechanical tactical games is a way to actually avoid that sort of situation. This is by no means a comprehensive list. So if you're gonna get anything out of this video, let it be to be aware at how people react when they're about to lose a game, or where they feel that they cannot cope with either the complexity or the skills needed or the results they're getting from their tactics when playing. Be aware, because your awareness, your action can mean the difference between somebody really having a bad time or falling in love again with games and learning some very vital life skills. Please let me know if you have had any kind of experience like this around the table and how you sorted it out, how you dealt with it, because it would be fantastic if we can have some sort of repository of ideas, of suggestions for people to look after each other around the table. Thank you so much for being there. I hope you'll subscribe and leave me your comments. And until the next time, I will talk to you very, very soon. Take care.